While the final days of a presidency are typically reserved for political pardons, President Biden's pardon of his son Hunter ignited a debate over what the president is exactly doing with his pardon power. As of now, Biden has granted fewer pardons than Trump or Obama. Many civil rights activists and faith leaders, and now even those within his own party, feel Biden has fallen way short on his 2020 campaign promise to reform the criminal justice system. And they urge the president to use his clemency power during these final days in office. Sources tell me that a group of Democratic House and Senate members are pushing the president to step away from only looking to pardon people he knows or people he's related to. Some of those members include Senator Dick Durbin, Senator Cory Booker, Senator Raphael Warnock, Congressman Jim Clyburn, and Congressman Stephen Horsford, who's a chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus. They're asking Biden to consider granting clemency to those who receive stacked sentences before the First Step Act went into effect during the Trump administration. The First Step Act eliminated the practice of stacking sentences to give the harshest penalties possible if somebody has a firearm. One example of someone who fell into stacked sentences is Weldon Angelos. He was sentenced to 55 years in prison for 3 small marijuana sales as a first-time nonviolent offender, 55 years, because he possessed a gun, so his sentences were stacked. Weldon Angelos is out of prison now. He was pardoned by Trump. Republican Senator Mike Lee of Utah was the one who brought a lot of attention to Mr. Angelos and the practice of stacking. Another category of individuals Democratic lawmakers want considered pardoned are those who are serving out the remainder of their sentences in home confinement under the CARES Act. The CARES Act moved low and minimum security, low-risk reoffenders to home confinement during COVID to finish their sentences. And finally, lawmakers are urging Biden to grant clemency to those who would have benefited from the passage of the Equal Act that would eliminate the sentencing disparities for crack cocaine and powder cocaine. Those sentences have for a long time been viewed as entirely discriminatory because the sentences for crack cocaine possession were 18 times longer than those for powder cocaine and disproportionately harmed Black and brown communities. Now the Justice Department changed its charging policy in 2022, but those convicted before that change continue to serve longer sentences. There is also a push to take all 40 individuals off of federal death row, giving them instead life in prison. So far, a number of Democrats involved in this process feel, however, that the White House is not listening to any of these requests. Deaf ears. The White House says Biden will have more to announce on pardons and commutations before he leaves office. But these Democratic lawmakers, as I understand it, are rather frustrated, as are some individuals at the Justice Department, Mr. Biden's own Justice Department. And just imagine, by the way, if the president had announced he was pardoning all of these people and also Hunter. Something to think about. Let's jump in with our panel. Maria Cardona, so you aggressively nodding during that entire tell. I assume you agree that some clemency, some mercy, some forgiveness from the president for some of these nonviolent offenders is in order.
Absolutely, and I've spoken to some of the offices of the senators that you just mentioned, and some House members too. Hakeem Jeffries has also been very vocal about how he hopes President Biden will do this before he leaves. There are so many individuals, all the ones that you mentioned and others, that have been so aggressively gone after by the Justice Department for very low nonviolent offenses. And like you said, overwhelmingly and disproportionately from Black and brown communities. And as somebody who campaigned on criminal justice reform and on equality and on sort of bringing that kind of fairness to the justice system, I think President Biden can make a mark on this. His time is running out, but he has until January 19th to do this. So my hope is in this next wave of pardons that you mentioned the White House talked about, many of these people and many of these categories will be included.
What would have been reaction, do you think? I know I love to bring people to earth too for a second, but if the Hunter Biden pardon had been in the midst or at the end of, hey, I'm taking a look and showing mercy to these thousands of other people, and here are the reasons why I'm doing it, because the STACK Act, which, you know, the stacking removal, which Republicans were in favor of too, and this and that. And also, while I'm doing this for these people I've never met, I'm also going to show some mercy to Hunter.
I think it would have been a couple different things. I think you obviously would still have had a huge outcry, and the argument would have been you're trying to kind of slip Hunter through and say maybe, I don't know, 40 or 50 other people. And I think also, again, the other big argument on Hunter was that you were pardoning him for crimes he wasn't even technically convicted of, right?
Sure.
Over a longer period of time. I think on the other things, I think Maria's point, I think you could see some Republican support of some of these. I think taking folks off death row and giving them life sentences, I think that would probably be a non-starter from a lot of Republicans. I think you'd probably see that. And look, you know, certainly Biden hasn't been shy about doing pardons over the last couple of weeks. There could be more. I mean, we've talked about preemptive pardons from the Biden administration for some of the folks. So who knows if maybe you do see folks mixed in with some of these other pardons as well.
Just something to think about. These Democrats are pushing those. I thought it was interesting, and I hadn't heard it.
Yeah.
Steph, welcome to The Lead. Good to have you here. I want to change subjects, turn to your reporting along with Mike Allen. You write that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the controversial pick of President-elect Trump to head the Department of Health and Human Services, is using his influence to push a different agenda, placing his daughter-in-law for a top job at the CIA. And the reason, he says, is he wants proof that the CIA killed his uncle, John F. Kennedy. I don't even know what to say. Explain what you uncovered.
Well, we know that RFK Jr. has publicly said that he believes that the CIA was involved in the assassination of President Kennedy, and he also suggests that the CIA was involved in the death of his father as well. And this has actually come up in some of the phone calls he's been making to push for his daughter-in-law to get the deputy director position at the CIA. He sees it as part of the pitch that she's going to get to the bottom of this. We had 2 sources tell us that this has been coming up, and it is a real reason for why he's pushing her for this role. And you know, it's interesting because it gives us a good example of why maybe RFK Jr. and Trump get along so well. They both feel like they are victims of this kind of deep state in the federal government, and they're going to do what they can to go after that. And it's just another example of how this is really going to be, a Trump revenge presidency in a lot of ways.
So, and we should note, Fox Kennedy was the campaign manager for RFK Jr.'s run for the White House, and she had worked at the CIA previously. She wrote a book about it, Life Undercover. But that doesn't mean she's qualified to be deputy director, is she?
I mean, there are certainly already concerns among Republicans. I heard from 4 different Senate Republican sources just this morning who are saying that a clip of her essentially asking for more nuance in how we talk about ISIS, that was making the rounds already, that people were concerned about that Republicans are already raising their eyebrows about her qualifications, some of the statements she's made, and feeling like this could be a risky pick if this does move forward. Of course, we're not sure exactly how the president-elect feels about her as an option, but we know that RFK Jr. has a lot of sway with Trump. Trump wants to keep RFK Jr. happy. He sees RFK Jr. as kind of this emblem of his broadened MAGA base, and that he wants him to be promoting Trump ongoing, and so he's going to try to make him happy.
Speaking of promoting family members, I want to note that Trump is making Jared Kushner's father, whom he pardoned last time, he's offering him the job of ambassador to France. He named his other daughter, Tiffany's father-in-law, a different father-in-law of a different daughter, a senior advisor for Arab and Middle Eastern affairs. He's been clearing the deck to have his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, Eric's wife, to fill Rubio's Florida Senate seat. And just today, Donald Trump Jr.'s former fiancée, Kimberly Guilfoyle, is being nominated to be ambassador to Greece. That's quite a family jobs program.
Quite a family jobs. Look, I think it's a little different. I don't really get outraged at ambassadorships in the same way I would as, say, a CIA thing. I mean, like, for example, the current Greek ambassador was rejected when he was nominated to be ambassador of Norway because he actually had never been to Norway and didn't even know the system of government there under President Obama. A previous French ambassador was former CEO of the Muppets. These things are political jobs and usually political appointees. They usually go to the friends of the president or fundraisers of it. I can't really get that outrage about ambassadorships going to family members or close friends.
The U.S. government's becoming a Trump family business, but do we really are we really that surprised that this is something that he's doing? I mean, we knew that this was something that he wanted to do, that this is sort of his MO, that this is kind of something that he didn't necessarily campaign on it, but this is who he is. And so I think moving forward, this is going to be an indication that he's not there to really appoint the best people for the job. He's not there to appoint people who are going to focus on getting the job of the American people done. He's focused on getting whatever it is that he wants done.
I remember when I covered the Obama administration, I did a lot of coverage of the ridiculous ambassador nominees, in amongst qualified people. But it was some pretty crazy stuff. Thanks one and all for being here.
Thanks,